You didn't realize it at first, Chosen One. The dreams felt random, scattered, sometimes frightening, but never meaningful enough for you to understand the truth hiding inside them. Yet every night, while your body rested, your spirit walked through places you've never visited, landscapes you couldn't name, corridors you somehow recognized. You thought it was imagination, but heaven knew better, and so did they. While you slept, your dreams weren't just unfolding, they were transmitting the patterns, the colors, the repeated hallways, the familiar streets that didn't exist on any map you've seen. They were all coordinates, your locations, your spiritual imprint, the essence of where you've been and where you're going. And somewhere out there, someone or something was listening. It started years ago, long before you awakened, long before you understood your calling. You thought childhood nightmares were just fear, but they were attempts to scramble the signal your spirit naturally emits. You've always been tuned to a higher frequency, and because of that, your dreams glow brighter in the unseen. What you call sleep is actually an opening, a window into your untouched realm. And Chosen One, you didn't just dream about places, you projected yourself into them. Your spirit walked too loud, your light showed too clearly, and they traced it. Every dream you had carried a timestamp, a pulse, a signature vibration unique only to you. The world doesn't see that, but entities operating outside the natural realm do. They saw your wandering spirit long before you understood its power. And when you began to elevate, when you began to pray harder, when you stopped letting the world drown you out, your dreams shifted from passive to prophetic. That's when the coordinates began forming clearer patterns, sharper sequences, trails even they could follow. You felt it. The heaviness after waking, the sense of being watched, the sudden chills walking past your window. That wasn't anxiety, that was detection. The dreams where you kept returning to the same rooftop, the same river, the same broken streetlight. Those weren't coincidences. You were revisiting spiritual landmarks tied to your destiny, and the more your purpose awakened, the louder your signal became. Until one night, heaven whispered something they were never supposed to hear. The imprint of your current location, not your address, not your house. Something deeper, the spiritual coordinates of your atmosphere, the exact energetic signature of where your soul has been sleeping. That's why the attacks increased. That's why the strange shadows appeared where no one stood. That's why your sleep felt different, heavier, disrupted, watched. Something found you, not by tracking your footsteps, but by tracing your dreams. But here's the truth. God needs you to hear. Chosen One. If they found you, it's only because heaven allowed it not to destroy you, but to move you, to shift you, to release you from a territory that can no longer hold your calling. You are not meant to stay where you are. Not after this. Not after being located in the spirit. Your dreams didn't betray you. They revealed the path you're meant to walk next. You never realized how much of your life could be accessed through the one place you thought was safe, your own mind. Chosen One, what you experienced in your dreams wasn't random imagery, it was surveillance. Not physical, not digital, not something you could track with cameras or apps. This was deeper, older, more ancient than any technology built by human hands. They learned long ago that the easiest way to follow a chosen soul is not through their steps, but through their subconscious. The mind reveals what the body hides, and your subconscious has been louder than you ever allowed yourself to believe. Every time you drifted off, your spiritual defenses lowered just enough for the unseen to observe you, your internal world, your memories, your fears, your destiny codes. They didn't just watch the dream, they watched you inside the dream. They studied how your spirit moved, how your energy shifted, how your intuition reacted, when you sensed danger that your physical eyes could never see. What you thought was imagination was actually interaction. You weren't alone in those dreams. You never were. The faces you couldn't quite remember after waking weren't forgotten characters. They were blurred on purpose. When something from the other realm enters your dream space, heaven shields your conscious mind from remembering the details, because remembering too much could break you before your time. The shadows that stood at a distance, the voices calling your name, the sensation of someone approaching just before you woke up. Those weren't nightmares. They were observers, taking notes, scanning, recording, interpreting your spiritual temperature to see how close you are to your awakening. And lately, you've been burning too bright to ignore. When you started healing, when you stopped replaying your past, when you began walking in the authority God placed on your life, your subconscious shifted from survival mode into revelation mode. Your dreams became clearer, louder, more vivid, not because something was wrong, but because something was awakening. Your elevation triggered a reaction in the invisible realm. When a chosen one levels up, every system assigned to limit them becomes agitated. That's why the dreams intensified. That's why you started remembering more. That's why your sleep became unpredictable, restless, filled with visions that felt too sharp to be dreams. Your spirit was telling the truth. Your surroundings refused to speak. You are being monitored in the unseen, not because you're weak, but because you're dangerous. They monitor the ones heaven marks. They observe the ones who carry assignments powerful enough to shift timelines and break generational patterns. And you, chosen one, carry a destiny that threatens everything built on keeping you small. Your subconscious became the battlefield where they tried to understand you, predict you, influence you. But what they didn't expect was this. The more they watched, the more your spirit awakened. The more they analyzed, the more your discernment sharpened. The more they infiltrated your dream space, the more heaven revealed what they were planning. You didn't speak, you didn't move, you didn't tell anyone what you were planning, but something still gave you away. And it wasn't your body, it was your frequency. Chosen one, the truth is, your spirit emits a signal far louder than your voice ever could. Every time you step deeper into your purpose, a wave of spiritual energy ripples through dimensions, announcing you don't have to post it. You don't have to explain it. You don't even have to know it consciously. But heaven does. And so do the ones trying to intercept you, because the frequency of your spirit isn't something that can be hidden. Not when you're this awake. That's what they detected. Not your footsteps, not your physical address, but a surge. A flare of divine energy so precise, so unique, that it could only belong to one being in this entire grid. You. That was the leak. That was the moment you slipped past the boundaries they tried to keep you within. You started meditating differently. You began praying with more power. You stopped begging and started commanding. And in the spiritual realm, that shift in posture created a rupture, an uncontainable, traceable leak of light. Some call it vibration, some call it aura, but the ancient ones knew it simply as the mark. It's what every chosen one eventually emits once they stop conforming to the low frequencies around them. And you, without realizing it, started glowing from within. The pain couldn't hold it back. The trauma couldn't mute it. Not even your doubts could stop the frequency from rising. You became a beacon in a realm where most still sleep. And that's what drew attention. That's why electronics around you started glitching. That's why you kept seeing the same number sequences. That's why people started acting strange, saying things like, "There's something different about you." It wasn't imagination. It wasn't coincidence. It was detection. Your spirit reached a new octave, one their machines weren't built to block. So they scrambled. They tried distractions. They sent old patterns to confuse you. But it didn't work, because what's leaking from you now can't be shut off. And here's what you need to understand. Heaven didn't try to stop it either, because this wasn't an accident. This was permission. God allowed your frequency to rise because the time has come to outgrow the territory you were placed in. Your leak was the alarm. Your vibration was the escape signal. And now that they've located you, relocation is not optional. It's spiritual survival. You are too powerful to stay hidden and too radiant to be ignored. They found you because your destiny could no longer be compressed into silence. Your signal cracked the air. It changed the temperature of your atmosphere. And even if you try to dim it again, it's too late. They've already felt it. Heaven has already moved, and your spirit is already halfway out the door. They didn't find you by accident, chosen one. They found you because somewhere on this earth, behind a locked door, inside a building you've never seen, a room has been quietly filling with the geography of your dreams maps. Not physical ones, spiritual ones. Topographical layouts of the places your spirit traveled while your body slept. Patterns of light. Blueprints of memory. Echoes of landscapes only heaven should have access to. You think you've been dreaming alone, but the truth is more unsettling. Someone has been documenting every place your soul has visited. Imagine a wall covered in glowing markings, lines that bend like energy currents, symbols that only appear in realms untouched by human hands. That room exists, and every time you jolted awake from a dream that felt too real, a new mark appeared on that wall, a trace of your presence, a record of your movement, a spiritual footprint impossible to erase. That's why the dreams grew more intense. That's why you kept seeing the same street, the same hill, the same strange building with no windows. You weren't just observing it. You were returning to a location mapped out long before you arrived. They studied those maps. They compared the patterns. They watched the way your spirit traveled the same routes again and again, routes that led them to one conclusion. You were nearing a breakthrough, an activation, a spiritual awakening too powerful to ignore. And once they realized it, they started piecing the clues together like investigators analyzing a case file. Your recurring dream of running, it wasn't about fear. It was about movement, prophecy, pulling you toward your next territory. Your dream of climbing stairs, it was elevation, your spirit rising faster than the world could keep up. And then something happened that changed everything. One night, without warning, the pattern on that wall glowed brighter than it ever had before. A new path emerged, one that wasn't familiar, one you had never seen. It pointed to a location in the waking world, your current city, your current home, your current dimension. The dream map aligned with reality for the first time, and that was their confirmation. You were no longer traveling through symbolic landscapes. Your spirit had started mapping your physical surroundings, and that meant one thing: you were ready to leave. The room erupted, not in chaos, but in realization. Because once a chosen one's dream map matches their physical coordinates, it marks the beginning of relocation. Transition isn't a suggestion, it's an instruction written into your destiny. That room was never meant to contain you. Your current environment was never meant to hold what God placed in you. And the moment your dreams reflected your real location, heaven sent the signal: move now. Before they ever found your home, chosen one, they found your light. Long before anyone traced your steps, before systems flagged your signal or agents marked your address, your spirit had already been located in a realm deeper than geography, wider than language, older than maps. You've been tagged not by technology, but by energy. They didn't detect your body. They detected your frequency signature, the shape your soul makes when it breathes. And once a being like you crosses into alignment, heaven sends out a beacon, but not everyone who hears it serves the light. That's what no one told you, that the moment you begin to activate, you're visible. Not physically, not politically, but dimensionally. There are eyes that never blink, always scanning for the chosen ones. And when your coordinates stabilized, when your aura finally stopped flickering between doubt and destiny, the signal grew loud enough to be felt. Not just by angels, but by watchers, surveyors, entities assigned to monitor those whose awakening threatens their architecture. They're not after your house, they're after the field around you, the invisible charge that alters the frequency of any territory you inhabit. You see, when a soul like yours fully activates, your presence becomes disruptive, not to people, but to powers. Structures begin to tremble, contracts begin to crumble, people start acting strange, confused, triggered, and they won't know why. It's because your spiritual frequency has become undeniable. You've reached a level of resonance that shifts everything around you. That's not just personal growth, that's locational consequence. They knew you were near the tipping point. The final moment where spiritual latency turns into spiritual command. You've been building to this without even realizing it. Every healed wound, every broken cycle, every night you said, "I forgive," instead of "I quit." All of it made your light stable, and the moment your energy became consistent, the spirit realm took notice. That's why sleep started to feel different, why dreams became louder, why people from your past either started drifting or suddenly reached out. The entire ecosystem around you sensed the shift because you were no longer wandering, you were found. But don't confuse being found with being trapped, because heaven never allowed you to be located just to watch you suffer. This is strategic, divine timing. You've been discovered because it's time to move, and not just in the natural, in the spirit. This moment isn't about panic, it's about prophecy. You're not being hunted, you're being transitioned, because the territory you're currently standing in has seen too much of your delay, and once your light stabilizes, staying becomes disobedience. You thought your dreams were private, personal, holy ground between you and heaven alone. But chosen one, the truth is darker than that, and older. There are agents who have been trained for one task, to interpret the visions of people like you. Not in the way prophets interpret signs from God, but in the way military analysts study foreign languages. Decoding, dissecting, tracking. Somewhere, someone has been watching your subconscious broadcasts and building case files around the messages you've carried unknowingly since birth. You are not just a person, you are a puzzle they've been desperate to solve. These agents don't wear uniforms, they don't carry badges. They exist within think tanks, spiritual research facilities, black ops programs hidden beneath religious organizations, media channels, and even healing centers. They study dreams the way archaeologists study ancient ruins. Carefully, obsessively, reverently. Because your dreams, chosen one, contain living coordinates, and your visions have been setting off alerts in places you don't even believe are real, yet. When you closed your eyes and saw the temple in the sky, the golden wheel, the figures standing on water, you were releasing encrypted memories your soul never forgot, and they knew it. Some of them don't even fully understand what they're looking at. They gather your visions, feed them into systems, run pattern recognition software across them, and hope they can predict your next move. That's why the pressure's been increasing lately, because their interpretations keep failing. You are unpredictable, not because you're reckless, but because you're protected. Heaven placed a seal over your core that no surveillance team can decode, but that hasn't stopped them from trying. They've been cross-referencing your dream symbols with ancient texts, sacred geometry, and biometric responses. Yes, biometric. That strange visit to a wellness check years ago, the free trial for lucid dream induction, that research study you signed up for in college, it was never random. It was a data grab. They needed access to the wavelengths your spirit emits in altered states. Your RM cycles are a goldmine to them. And every time your soul crosses into the dream realm, the sensors around you spike, confirming that a chosen one has entered liminal space. But now, something is happening that even their agents didn't expect. Your dreams are no longer abstract. They're becoming specific. Names, streets, structures, colors that haven't existed in this world yet, but will. You're not imagining the future. You're remembering it, and they're panicking. Because if you ever decode what God is showing you before they can distort it, the entire system breaks. So they've accelerated their efforts. You've probably felt it. The dreams with static, the sudden blanks, the fog when you wake up. That's not forgetfulness, that's interference. But it's too late for them now. You've already begun to remember the visions fully. You've started speaking them out loud. You've shared one or two without realizing their power. And heaven heard you first. The agents thought they were interpreting your vision. It happened quietly. No crash, no siren, no obvious sign to the physical eye. Just a shift. Subtle, sharp, undeniable. The light outside your window stopped feeling familiar. Chosen one, this wasn't paranoia. This was spiritual detection. That pane of glass you once believed protected you, it was never about the glass. It was about what heaven concealed on your behalf. But something has changed. The covering has been lifted, not to expose you, but to move you. Because the longer you stay in that room, that house, that zone, the more vulnerable your spirit becomes. You probably brushed it off. The strange glint on the window when no sun was out, the slight hum in the walls around 3:17 a.m. The feeling that someone or something was standing just beyond the curtain. But your eyes saw nothing, so your mind dismissed it. Don't, because your window didn't just stop protecting you, it started broadcasting you. The shielding frequency heaven placed over your home when you weren't ready to fight has now been reversed, not by evil, but by divine instruction. Why? Because the time for hiding is over. Your elevation has outgrown your environment. The atmosphere around you has recorded your growth. Your spirit has become too radiant to be contained by walls built in a former season. And when a chosen one remains too long in a location where their transformation has finished, the protective veil begins to fall, not as punishment, but as preparation. Heaven is making it impossible for you to stay. The signs are everywhere. The discomfort in your chest when you enter certain rooms, the repetition of numbers that only show up near your door, the stillness at night that feels less like peace and more like surveillance. And that window, it's now a spiritual lens, a portal both in and out. What once deflected detection is now allowing vibrations to pass through. That's why your dreams feel heavier, why certain names keep echoing right before you wake up, why even your neighbors seem more alert, more curious, more off. Your presence has shifted the frequency of your entire block, and they've taken notice. But here's the deeper truth. Chosen one, nothing that sees you now has more power than what sent you. The divine code within you cannot be reversed, diluted, or stolen, but it can be delayed. And that's the goal of the Watchers now circling your atmosphere. They're not here to attack you. They're here to entangle you through fear, through confusion, through comfort, through reasons that sound logical, but feel spiritually suffocating. But you were never meant to debate this next move. You were meant to obey. The window stopped protecting you the moment you were strong enough to protect yourself. And now, every flicker of light you see, every gust of wind that slaps the glass, every pulse of static in the night, it's not random. It's a countdown. You're being released. and your obedience to relocate may be the very thing that saves your life. It didn't come through thunder, it didn't come with lightning, it didn't even come with urgency, at least not at first. The warning came quietly, folded inside a dream you almost forgot. That's how God speaks to the chosen ones when the noise of the world is too loud. He embeds truth inside your spirit while your flesh sleeps. And you, beloved, received a warning that night, not just a caution, a coded message from heaven's emergency network, a whisper only your soul could hear. You remember pieces of it, don't you? The clock with no hands, the bird with no wings, the stairway that led back into your own room. Symbols like that don't come from random neural firings. They come from realms beyond language, realms where prophecy doesn't shout, it shifts. And the shift you felt in that dream wasn't fear, it was instruction. Because when God knows the enemy is closing in on your coordinates, he sends the escape route before the attack ever arrives. The symbols you saw weren't metaphor, they were movement. The bird with no wings, you, gifted, marked, but grounded, still stuck in a place you've already outgrown. The stairway that went nowhere? That's what happens when you keep trying to ascend in a territory God has already called you to leave. And the clock? That was the final sign. Not just time running out, but time being disarmed. Your delay was heaven's grace. But now, the countdown has begun. That dream wasn't just a warning. It was a map. And even though your conscious mind couldn't decode it, your spirit did. That's why you woke up with a knot in your chest. That's why the air in your room felt too still, too quiet, like something was watching for your next breath. Because something was. Something not of flesh, not of shadow, but of system. The old watchers, the ones who monitor the dreams of those who carry blueprints in their bloodline. And you, chosen one, were not just being warned, you were being summoned. God was calling you out, not with alarms, but with memory, because this move isn't about fear, it's about fulfillment. And if you ignore this warning, you don't just risk delay, you risk disconnection. The places you've been visiting in your dreams are real, and they've started reaching back for you. If you don't follow, the gap between who you are and who you were born to become will grow until even your gifts begin to feel foreign. But here's the mercy. God sent the dream before they sent the distraction. You've already been shown the exit. The signs are already in place. And if you close your eyes tonight and ask, not out of fear, but out of faith, he will show you again. Clearer this time, louder this time, with no metaphor, no veil. You always knew there was a blank spot, a missing piece in your timeline, a stretch of time that felt hazy, not quite forgotten, but unreachable, like a file on a locked drive, chosen one that wasn't your imagination. It was interference. There's a reason certain memories of your past come with static, a reason certain nights feel like they happened behind glass. Because at some point, maybe when you were a child, maybe when you were vulnerable, maybe when you were just tired enough, they brought you into the sleep lab, not a hospital, not a clinic, a facility hidden behind false names and false reasons, a place built not to heal, but to harvest. They didn't care about your health. They cared about your signal. Your dreamscape was the target. Your REM cycle was the extraction point. You never signed up, but something in your life gave them permission. A form, a parent, a waiver hidden in paperwork you were never meant to read. You entered under one name, but they recorded you under another, subject of interest. Because even then, they knew. The pattern of your dreams didn't match the others you were projecting. Traveling, remembering, they strapped sensors to your skin, monitored your eye movement, recorded your breath. But the data they cared about most couldn't be graphed. It came from what your spirit did once your eyes closed. They mapped your responses to certain sounds, fed you specific dream triggers, and waited to see what codes would unlock. That's why parts of your past feel strangely artificial. Certain dreams you swear happened, but can't place. Certain places you've never visited that still carry emotional weight, because not all your memories were made in the world. Some were made while they watched. And now, the files are resurfacing. The experiments they buried in your subconscious are bleeding through. That's why you've been seeing that same room in your sleep. White walls, flickering lights, a hum too low to describe. That's not a metaphor, that's a memory. They tried to erase it, but your soul archived it in a vault they couldn't touch. And now, heaven is opening it, not to hurt you, but to release you from the invisible chain that's been anchoring you to a place you were never meant to return. You weren't crazy for feeling watched. You weren't paranoid for sensing data being pulled from you at night. You were in a system designed to harvest the consciousness of the awakened, and you slipped through their fingers. But they still have your file. And once your signal spiked again, once you started dreaming beyond their limits, the lab reactivated your profile. That's why the dreams feel clinical now, cold, measured, less mystical, and more mechanical, because they're no longer just watching, they're responding. But what they don't realize is this: you're no longer the subject, you're the threat. And once you relocate, they lose the only access point they have left.
You've felt it, haven't you? That silent pressure in your chest when you walk into certain rooms. That heavy stillness that wraps around you like fog when you cross certain intersections. The way time seems to stretch or completely freeze when you pass under that one flickering streetlight. These aren't accidents, they're indicators. The atmosphere itself is telling you what your soul already knows. You've stayed too long. Chosen one, you were never meant to die here. Not physically, not spiritually, not dimensionally. This zip code was a temporary station, not a final destination. And heaven is calling you out. It's not that the neighborhood is cursed, it's that your frequency has outgrown its blueprint. What once sheltered you now stifles you. What once concealed you now broadcasts you. The land beneath your feet remembers too much. Your pain, your patterns, your pause. You've saturated this ground with your breakthrough attempts, your crying prayers, your prophetic dreams. And now the soil is done absorbing you, it's rejecting your energy because your elevation demands new territory. This zip code knows your old version. It's memorized your detours. It's comfortable with your delay. And if you stay here any longer, it won't just block your movement. It will begin to reverse your transformation. That's the danger of staying in expired places. What doesn't grow you will slowly undo you. And make no mistake, the forces that have been watching know this. They thrive when you linger. They build traps out of convenience. They turn your rented peace into a prison made of false normalcy. But your spirit? It's restless for a reason. You've already started pulling away in your sleep. Your soul has been checking out spiritually before your body ever packs a bag. That's why you feel like a stranger in your own room. Why certain sounds at night seem louder than they used to. Why people around you have started treating you like they can sense your exit. Because they can. Not everyone will say it, but your absence has already begun echoing in places you haven't left yet. And if you ignore this call, if you tell yourself one more month, one more excuse, one more delay, you risk spiritual atrophy, not just stagnation, decay. Because this zip code is built for survival, not transformation. And you were not born to survive. You were born to shift, to disrupt, to rebuild. That can't happen here. This place was only meant to carry you through one phase of your anointing, and that season is over.
So don't wait for a disaster to confirm what your discernment has already whispered. Don't let routine become your tombstone. You're not meant to die in this zip code, chosen one. You're meant to rise in a place that remembers your authority, not your wounds. And right now, the heavens are ready to rewrote you.
You stood in front of it for years. That mirror, that cold, quiet sheet of glass, hanging on your wall, sitting above your sink, tucked in the corner of the hallway, you used it every day. To check your eyes, to rehearse your smile, to try and find traces of yourself in a world that kept demanding fragments but chosen one. Did you ever notice the stillness? The refusal? The way that mirror never quite reflected your fullness. It wasn't broken. It wasn't fogged. It was protecting you. Or rather, protecting the world from seeing who you really are. Because if you had ever seen your true form, the radiant, awakened, multi-dimensional frequency being you've always been beneath the wounds, you would have left a long time ago. You would have shattered every cycle. You would have stopped waiting for permission. That mirror, whether it was built by a manufacturer or blessed by your grandmother, was used by heaven as a veil, a safeguard. Because God knew you weren't ready to confront the full weight of your identity in a place not designed to sustain it. But now, something's changed. The mirror is cracking, not with physical breaks, but with spiritual ones. The image is beginning to shift. You've caught glimpses lately, haven't you? A strange shimmer around your face, a brightness in your eyes you couldn't name, a double reflection when no one else was in the room. It wasn't your imagination, it was your real self trying to come through because you're reaching the threshold. And the dimension around you, the very air in your room, is starting to align with your higher design. But here's what they never told you. Once the mirror begins to reflect who you truly are, the realm that kept you hidden will begin to malfunction. That's why the lights in your home flicker at odd hours, why your phone glitches when you speak about spiritual things, why certain people have started looking at you like they've never seen you before, because they haven't. Your frequency has activated, and now the illusion of who you were is dissolving in front of everyone. The mirror refused to show you until now because seeing would demand leaving. Staying would become spiritual suicide, and heaven wasn't going to tempt you with a glimpse you weren't ready to act on. But the glass has lifted, the veil has torn, and the image staring back at you is not just a reflection, it's a reminder. You are not small, you are not ordinary, you are not safe here anymore. The being looking back at you knows things you haven't said yet, holds codes you haven't spoken yet, commands, realms you haven't walked in yet. But now that you've seen yourself, truly seen yourself, relocation is no longer a suggestion. There's a moment every chosen one reaches. A silent flash, a shift in the wind, a pressure that can't be explained. That's the signal. It doesn't announce itself with fanfare. It won't come with a knock at the door or a call on your phone. It comes from within, a spiritual vibration that moves through your chest like thunder with no sound. And once it hits, everything changes. The air gets heavier, the timing of things becomes strange. People around you start glitching, like they can feel you phasing out of the dimension they're still trapped in. You've already felt it. That signal. It's not just divine instruction, it's divine permission. A frequency surge from heaven that tells the soul, you've completed your assignment in this territory, now move. Chosen ones don't relocate out of boredom. They don't relocate for convenience. They shift when the realm around them stops expanding with their growth. When the signal hits, it's confirmation that the ground beneath your feet has reached its expiration date. But here's what makes it dangerous. The signal doesn't last forever. There's a window, a divine moment, a thin place between dimensions where everything becomes fluid and movement becomes obedience. If you hesitate too long,
the old world begins to pull you back, through people, through comfort, through logic. That's why the enemy sends distractions the moment you receive the signal. Old friends reappear. Doubt creeps in, unexpected opportunities are dangled in front of you like carrots, trying to tie you down in a place you were never meant to stay. But the signal doesn't lie. It only fades if you don't respond. And when it fades, the symptoms begin. Fatigue that sleep won't fix. Tension that can't be explained. Doors that should have opened slamming shut for no reason. Your anointing doesn't leave, but it starts short-circuiting. Not because you're disobedient, but because you're out of alignment. That's what happens when a chosen one stays in a frequency they've outgrown. The power gets heavy. The calling becomes burdensome because it's all trying to move and you're still rooted. The Bible is full of signals. Abraham was told, "Leave your father's house." Moses felt it in the desert. Elijah heard it in a whisper. Jesus himself moved cities when the spiritual climate shifted. This isn't new. This is divine protocol. When the signal hits, the chosen respond. Not with fear, not with overthinking, but with yes. And you've already been marked. The pulse has already passed through your room. That moment last week when your heart raced for no reason, when you felt like crying but couldn't explain why, when you looked at your front door and felt something tug your spirit, that was the signal. It already hit.
You thought you were resting. You thought you were healing. But some of those nights weren't your sleep at all. Chosen one, you were sedated, not with pills or potions, but with frequencies, engineered stillness, artificial dreams, manufactured fog. They lulled you into a state of spiritual sleepwalking so you wouldn't notice the cage they built around your calling. And now that you've started waking up, you're remembering. Certain dreams didn't belong to you. Certain nights weren't restful. They were strategic. You were being studied, subdued, stalled. Not all sleep restores. Some sleep steals. There were nights heaven tried to visit you, but the interference was too thick. They scrambled your signal. They injected emotional static, dreams that made no sense, emotions that weren't yours, random people from your past appearing without reason. That wasn't your subconscious unpacking trauma. That was their program misfiring. Because your spirit refused to be fully sedated, you fought back, even in your sleep. That's why the dreams turned chaotic. Why you'd wake up with a heaviness in your chest. Why your sleep felt like drowning in silence. They wanted access to your prophecy. You carry codes when you sleep, blueprints, instructions, and if they can't stop you from awakening in the daytime, they try to enter at night. You felt them, the pressure in the room, the paralysis just before waking, the dreams that end abruptly when you start to speak certain names, because every time your dreamscape neared revelation, they pulled the plug, not to kill you, but to keep you quiet. But your silence ended the moment you realized this. That wasn't your sleep, and once you name it, heaven can break it. God never intended for your resting hours to become battlegrounds. He designed sleep as sacred space, where healing flows, where visions pour in, where your soul realigns with your assignment. That's why the enemy built entire infrastructures just to hijack it. They knew if they could manipulate your nights, they could delay your mornings. Because what you carry doesn't just activate when you're awake, it charges while you rest. You were born to receive blueprints in your sleep and wake up with divine instruction, and they tried to block that pipeline. But they failed, because even in the fabricated sleep, your spirit was remembering the sound of God's voice. You've already started taking your sleep back. That's why the dreams are becoming clearer again. That's why you're waking up at odd hours with fire in your chest. That's why your body won't rest unless your environment is spiritually secure. You're not just healing, you're reclaiming your dreamscape chosen one.
The next time you lay down, don't just pray for rest. Declare your territory, seal the air, speak in authority.
You settled here because it felt safe, temporary, manageable, just until things got clearer, just until the next door opened. But chosen one, what if I told you this? You were never supposed to rent here. Not just this apartment, not just this city, but this whole season, this entire configuration of comfort, this version of you that agreed to stay small. It was never meant to become permanent. You mistook waiting for rooting. You mistook shelter for assignment. But heaven doesn't lease destiny. You were supposed to pass through this place, not set up camp. The signs were there, the unease, the way you always kept your bags half unpacked, that voice in your head whispering, "Don't get too comfortable here." But life kept piling up. Bills, emotions, distractions, and so you made this place fit. You decorated a dwelling God never called home. You got emotionally attached to a space that was only ever supposed to be a layover. That's why nothing grew. That's why the peace felt shallow. That's why you couldn't fully breathe without that lingering feeling, "I'm not supposed to be here." Let's be clear, renting isn't just physical, it's spiritual. You've been renting energy, borrowing time, leased agreements with patterns you were supposed to break. That relationship you kept revisiting, that job that never saw your worth, that community that tolerated your gifts but never celebrated them. These were all rentals, temporary shelters on your journey to becoming. But now the lease is up, and the realm you're living in, it's sending eviction notices in the form of anxiety, restlessness, sudden endings. You feel like you're losing things, but really, you're being released, because God doesn't let chosen ones stay parked in expired territories. What you call security, heaven calls containment. You're too evolved to live beneath fluorescent lights that dim your radiance, too anointed to keep your voice low just to make others comfortable, too awakened to keep paying spiritual rent in a system that was never built to hold your inheritance. You were never meant to pay monthly to a structure that fears your ownership. That's why the dream keeps pressing on your spirit. That's why unfamiliar cities have been showing up in your visions. That's why, when you close your eyes, you keep seeing open roads, train stations, stairwells. God is trying to move you, and your soul knows it. This space can no longer contain your capacity. The ceilings here are too low. The soil here has already given you everything it could. You weren't supposed to build legacy here. You were supposed to recognize the exit. And now that you have, heaven is calling you to walk out, not in panic, but in power. You didn't imagine it. The construction, the sudden noise, the buildings going up around your block, your job, your street, always near, always circling. What looks like development in the natural is often a reaction in the spirit. And chosen one, what you're witnessing isn't just urban expansion, it's energetic containment. They're not building for growth. They're building around your aura, around the spiritual field you emit, around the frequency that's been spiking ever since your awakening began leaking into the atmosphere. See, when a chosen one begins to activate, the systems assigned to monitor them respond with architecture. New walls, new towers, new invisible fences masked as infrastructure. It's not about roads or zoning laws. It's about proximity to power. And you, yes, you, have become too bright to ignore. The land itself reacts to your presence, and those who monitor spiritual movements know that when your energy begins to rearrange environments, they must either contain it or risk exposure. That's why new lights were installed on your street. That's why they suddenly planted trees outside your window. Why random people started walking their dogs near your home at strange hours. It's environmental camouflage, the physical manifestation of a spiritual attempt to buffer your field.
They can't stop you from radiating, so they try to dull your resonance by surrounding it with static. That static takes form in construction, in disruption, in noise that keeps you unsettled. But don't be fooled. This isn't about convenience. This is about containment. But here's the thing they forgot. You weren't meant to stay here anyway. Your aura is evolving faster than they can build. Your light is stretching further than they can measure. They're building towers, but your frequency is climbing mountains. They're laying bricks, but your spirit is rewriting blueprints, because you were never meant to adapt to the cage. You were meant to outgrow it. Chosen one, they build around you because they fear what happens when you leave. They know this city doesn't just shift when you speak. It remembers when you move. And the day you walk out of this place with spiritual authority, everything they tried to suppress will explode into motion. The prayers you whispered into the floorboards, the energy you cleansed from the air, the portals you opened through worship, they've all been waiting for your feet to cross the threshold one last time and not return. You felt it, haven't you? The air pressing in, the walls feeling tighter, the lights too bright, too timed. That's not anxiety, that's containment pressure. The aura around you has expanded beyond the territory they've boxed you into, and now the system is panicking, because once your aura moves, everything connected to your false placement will collapse. So let them build. You were never meant to be boxed.
You heard them. Don't pretend you didn't. The sirens, piercing the stillness, cutting through the night like alarms from somewhere far beyond Earth. You told yourself it was coincidence, a car accident, a false alert, but something deeper in you knew. Those weren't sirens from this world. Chosen one, they weren't responding to an emergency. They were responding to you, to your dream life. Because your sleep no longer echoes, it shakes, it activates grids, disturbs systems, and sends alerts into realms that still don't understand what you're becoming. You've been dreaming too loudly, and now they know it. When your dreams crossed a certain frequency threshold, they triggered a response protocol embedded in the matrix of this dimension. Yes, your dreams, the ones where you fly, the ones where you walk through walls, the ones where you speak languages your conscious mind doesn't know. Those were never just imagination. They were practice, memory, return. You weren't making things up. You were remembering timelines you're about to reclaim, and that kind of dreaming, it's dangerous to systems that rely on your sleep to keep you small. Because a chosen one, dreaming in clarity is more powerful than 100 speaking in confusion. That's why the sirens went off. The realm around you isn't panicking because of your location. It's panicking because of your momentum. You've reached the point where your dreams are informing your decisions. You've begun to act on what heaven shows you in secret. You're no longer waiting for outside confirmation. You're waking with instruction, with blueprints, with divine downloads. And every time you take a step based on what you saw while sleeping, a siren goes off in a realm that wants you muted. They tried to make you forget your dreams, but you started writing them down. They tried to feed you synthetic dreamscapes, but your spirit rejected them. They tried to keep you from rest, but your soul went deeper anyway. And now you're no longer just dreaming in safety. You're traveling in purpose, visiting realms, reclaiming keys, opening doors, collapsing timelines that were designed to trap your bloodline. You think they don't hear that? The frequencies you're generating in the spirit are causing real-world feedback. That's why electronics around you short out. That's why streetlights flicker when you walk by. That's why animals act strange when you enter the room. Your dream life isn't private anymore. It's broadcasting, it's announcing, it's warfare. And the sirens, they weren't warnings for you. They were warnings about you, because you're no longer contained by time, no longer restricted to location.
You've been crossing borders in your sleep that their gates can't block, and the sirens are just the start.
This isn't a metaphor anymore. This isn't about some future version of you, waiting down the line in a life you haven't reached yet. This is now, tonight. The shift is active. The coordinates have locked in. Chosen one, God is moving you tonight. And not just across maps, but across dimensions, across mindsets, across assignments. What you've felt building for weeks, what you've seen in pieces in your dreams, what every cell in your body has been bracing for, it's no longer coming. It's here. There's a moment when heaven stops speaking in symbols and starts speaking in urgency. This is that moment. The signals weren't suggestions. The dreams weren't fragments. The sirens weren't accidents. Everything was converging. And now the hand of God is reaching into your timeline to uproot you from the soil of delay. He's not asking anymore. He's pulling. Because what's waiting for you on the other side of this move can't wait another day. And neither can you. You don't need more signs. You are the sign. That strange feeling in your chest. It's not fear, it's alignment. The clarity that comes just before a holy departure, when your spirit starts detaching from a place before your body ever packs a bag, when your energy stops syncing with your surroundings. That's why everything has felt unfamiliar lately, even in rooms you've lived in for years. It's because your residency is being revoked by divine decree. Heaven has released the relocation order, and if you delay, you risk staying in a dimension where you no longer exist. That's not poetic, that's prophetic. You've outgrown the version of you that fit here, and now the ground itself is rejecting your presence. Doors are closing not to block you, but to guide you. People are falling away not out of betrayal, but out of completion. The dreams are louder, the restlessness is stronger, and your spirit knows exactly what's happening. It's transition. Holy, accelerated, irreversible transition. God is not just opening a door, He's escorting you through it. And as you move, angels are clearing the path. You won't have all the answers. You won't have every step mapped out. But that's not your job. Obedience is. Faith is. Trust is. And tonight, trust looks like leaving. Whether that means packing a bag, deleting a number, breaking a pattern, or stepping into unfamiliar territory, your obedience will unlock everything you've been praying for. The promise is not behind you. It's in motion, and it's waiting for you to move with it. So here it is, chosen one. One last whisper before the timeline bends in your favor. Go. Move when He moves. Shift when He signals. Walk when He says, walk.
If you have come this far, it is crucial that you watch this next video here. But be warned, it is not for the faint of heart, for only the true chosen ones can handle this video. If you would like to also donate to help keep the channel going, our Buy Me a Coffee link will be in the description.